Let's take a look at the standings as we go into round 10 of the Tata Steel Masters. So out in front by just half a point, Noribek Abdusatorov on 6 points. And then 3 players just behind, Domush, Sindarov and Van Forest on 5.5. But the game I would like to look at from round 10 is played by 2 players just below. So we have Matthias Bluebaum on 5 points. Now, he's played pretty solidly. He's just had one disaster, and that was that spectacular game against Sindarov. And today he was playing against Anish Giri, who after a dreadful start has clawed his way back up to 50%. So, this is an amazing game. I don't know if this gives us a foretaste of what we might expect when they play in the candidates. Nevertheless, this was remarkable stuff. So stick around. Bluebaum playing white, Giri playing black. Bluebaum generally opens with d4. And already from Giri we see that he wants a fight because he isn't planting a pawn solidly in the middle with d5, but he's prepared to cede central control and playing a modern, not even a King's Indian. Of course, knight f6 would be a King's Indian at this point, but instead he plays c5. So this really is unusual for him. And Bluebaum advances and claims the centre. So it's a kind of Benoni pawn structure. But at this moment, Giri doesn't even play, let's say, the regular knight f6, but instead exchanges bishop for knight. So this is unusual. It's certainly extremely double-edged, giving up that dark-squared bishop, because it means that these squares are a little bit weak, particularly after this move e5. Black has to be extremely careful later on that that dark square bishop doesn't manage to invade. So what is Giri doing? Well, basically you probably recognize this pawn structure from the Nimzo-Indian. Indeed, the pawns in the centre can often be locked in this way in some lines. So there's potential for this pawn to be a little bit weak if black manages to attack it, let's say with bishop a6. But there is a drawback here. As I said, these dark squares are a little bit weak. It would be preferable to have the pawn on g7. And more than that, it's possible for white to break open the position like this. And that's what Bluebaum did. Now, both sides gain something from that exchange. So with white, you have the 2 bishops, and it means the range of this dark squared bishop is increased. So moves like this could be possible to attack the pawn on d6. Indeed, I mean, it's actually a possible move straight away. For black, well, the bishop certainly stands well on e6, looking at the pawn on c4. Actually, Carlsen has played this way with black. He likes fixed pawn structures. I mean, he hasn't done it in proper games. He's done it in blitz games, online blitz games, and, well, over-the-board blitz games as well. I'm not sure he would risk it in a real game. But yeah, it's very double-edged. So bishop d3 from Bluebaum. Okay, developing. Knight f6 also developing. And of course, if the bishop pins, then it can be pushed away with h6. Now, because black's kingside is really very Swiss cheesy, the king does not want to castle there. So basically, Giri will be looking to castle queenside, and there it's pretty safe actually, as these pawns are pretty blocked. Knight e2 from Bluebaum. Okay, And knight h5 from Giri. I quite like this move. If the knight doesn't go here, then white can play knight f4, and the knight is useful on f4. It might exchange here, it might go to d5, and it prevents knight h5. Apart from looking at f4, so it means that knight can be exchanged off, it also makes way for the queen to come to h4 under the right circumstances. And also later on, much later on, you might want to break with f5. So it seems a bit funny to move this piece again, but actually I think it's well motivated. Castles and knight c6. So if black is given time, then moving the queen out somewhere, I don't know, on one of these squares, followed by castles queenside, and I think black will be pretty well set up in that position. And remember, could be that black can start attacking that pawn on c4. So Bluebaum, after very little thought, decided to go for it. He played f4. So it covers e5 and looks perhaps to push the bishop away from e6. And Giri decided after, well, almost 15 minutes thought, to just push the bishop back to d7, just nudge it back to d7, preempting f5. Don't have to play like that, but it's reasonable. And I mean, one thing is that after f5, of course, then the knight can very happily hop into e5. Beautiful square, can't be pushed away, and looks at those two. So h3 from Bluebaum, and now it's getting extremely sharp. So with h3, perhaps he's looking to advance with g4, which would certainly raise the stakes. Queen e7. Yeah, if queen h4, then bishop d2, and perhaps the queen will be pushed away. So queen e7. So this looks very reasonable. And after thinking for not too long, Bluebaum went for it. He played g4. Well, this kind of move is either very good or very bad. There's no half measures because white's king is really exposed. And after 18 minutes, Giri played knight g7, which is not a bad move. But actually, Giri had something really strong. He could have played queen h4. And this would give black a clear advantage. Working this out is really difficult because basically black gives a piece and it's for pretty long-term compensation. There's no immediate gain of material, or the attack isn't necessarily crashing through, but it's really strong. I'm just going to point out one variation. So here black simply recaptures and opens the g file. f5 shuts out the bishop, rook g8, knight e5. Now white can hardly move here, and it's a kind of slow motion attack. So after knight f4, just bishop c6. I mean, this is amazing stuff. So basically, moves like knight g4 are coming. And if rook f3, hoping to give back material, black has an amazing move here. You don't take the rook, which would bring the queen over to the defence, but instead, queen e1. I mean, this is all very computery, of course. To analyse, well, with such calmness, moves like bishop c6 is very difficult. In the end, one just has to try kind of judge this. Of course, the point is that if queen takes, then black wins back all the material. So basically, queen h4 would give black a kind of slow motion attack, and it's very promising. But Giri back down with the knight. Still very reasonable for black, actually. Now, if Bluebaum just sort of edges the king up the board, then h5. And that is also quite promising for black. And black is going to castle queenside, possibilities to break open the position with f6. So Bluebaum, I think quite correctly, decided to just plough on. Threatening f6. So black has to deal with that. So queen h4. And now knight f4. And Giri played h5, which looks very natural, just to try and break things open. In fact, it would have been better to take here first, and this is just very unclear. Okay, that's another story. Normally, one is advised, well, try and keep the tension, and there are reasons for that. Because, for example, here, after h5, then white can bail out with a queen exchange. Queen e1. And in fact, that's playable for white. I mean, it's just a very, very unclear position. So I can understand why Giri did not want to play this and instead played h5. But it turns out, as we're going to see, this was a mistake. Now, what Bluebaum did over the next few moves is absolutely remarkable. So, time for you to have a think. Time for me to have a think from my battered Brentford mug. And I will see you after this message. Do you want to improve your chess? Get access to live masterclasses with yours truly? Then subscribe to patreon.com/PowerPlayChess, and for just $25 a month, you get a newsletter with a test game, calculation puzzles, a monthly opening survey, access to an archive with over 100 opening surveys. And you can join in live masterclasses exclusive to patrons where you can ask me questions directly over Zoom. All for only $25 per month. Do subscribe to patreon.com/PowerPlayChess and join the club. By the way, patrons, in case you missed it, I posted the whole of last week's masterclass on the Patreon site. It was a really good session, actually, with some very nice, very instructive contributions by viewers. Now, let's get back to this game. What did Bluebaum play? Knight g2. He calculated so well here. Queen takes h3. Giri went for it. Rook f3. It's giving away another pawn. And now it looks like, well, what's white's follow-up here? Bishop e2. I mean, this is extraordinary. It's the only move to win. Black's queen is in trouble. You can see there's no route back. And obviously queen takes pawn will lose to a pin. If castles, then bishop f4, and I'm afraid that makes matters even worse because white is about to take on d6. And yeah, black's queen is basically getting trapped in this position after rook g3, for example. So Giri took on f5. Now again, white has only one move to win. I mean, this is brilliantly calculated. Rook e3. What a sensational move. So bishop takes queen threatened. If the queen goes back to g6, then e takes f5 is check, winning black's queen. So queen g5 played. Check. So if the king steps aside, well, I mean, there's lots of good moves, but queen takes d6 check. There's also rook e8 check with a discovered attack. So knight e7 and queen takes d6, and black's king is caught. You can see well, if castle's kingside, there are many, many winning moves, but if nothing else, one of these pieces could be taken. And if castle's queenside, rook takes e7. This is also winning. And if knight takes, I mean, this is really sweet. White to play and win. Queen takes bishop check. And rook d3 check. The tactics are just beautiful. And you take the queen with an extra piece. Giri played bishop c6. Threatening mate in 1, by the way. And rook e4 is such a beautiful move. I love the way this rook has just stepped around very carefully. So bishop takes queen threatened. The rook, of course, blocks the diagonal. I mean, this is like a study. And basically the queen doesn't have a good square. I mean, the only square available is this one. But of course, that's checkmate. So Giri gave up the queen, took the rook, and then took on f5. But this is absolutely hopeless. Bishop g5. So you can see mate in 1 is threatened. The king simply cannot escape. I mean, the knight could move, I guess. But you can see the king is completely trapped. And it's not going to take too much to actually finish things off. I think I would probably start with rook e1. And there's going to be an absolutely horrible check on the next turn, for example. But there are many, many winning moves. Brilliant game. Brilliant performance from Matthias Bluebaum. And Giri should be impressed by that, and he'll now realise that if he gets the wrong kind of position against Bluebaum in the candidates, then it will be like facing a computer, because Bluebaum can calculate like silicon. He really can. That was absolutely superb. So let's take a look at the standings after 10 rounds. Now, Abdusattorov, Sindarov and Fanfores, they all drew. So that meant that with that win, Matthias Bluebaum bounces up and is now in joint second position. Abdusattorov still out in front. But there's still a chasing pack. So conceivably, any of those players, even the players on 5 points, if they score well in the last few rounds, they still have a chance to win. Thursday is a free day in Vaikonce, and then there are 3 rounds left on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Thanks for watching.